Hey, what's up, Central Region? Today, what I'm going to be teaching you is how to systemize your phoning. So, if you're like me and every other rep on the planet, everyone hates phoning, but it's also the most important part of the job. Because the thing about phone calls, if you don't make them, you don't have appointments. And if you don't have appointments, it's pretty tough to make sales. The strategy that I've created for phoning, it's actually the sole reason why I actually won the Rolex back in 2017, had my best year ever that year. So the perks of this is one, you're always going to have a full calendar. You're not going to have to worry about filling, appointments last minute because maybe you were lazy or didn't make as many phone calls during the week. So you're like scrambling last minute to try and get, some appointments in your calendar. You won't have that happen because your calendar is always going to be full. Also, you will also be a lot more organized. You won't let any leads, slip through the cracks. Maybe forgot about this one page of referrals that you got at your last demo. You're not going to have any of that because it's all in one spreadsheet, and you will also sell more Cutco, which is always a plus. So the first thing you want to do is exhaust every single outlet that there is for leads, and prepare it in one big giant list. So the first thing is, if you've been with Cutco for at least a year, what you want to do is find all the customers that you haven't sold to in the last 6 months. So it's been like 6 months to like 2 years that you haven't seen them. You want to put all those customers in a list, an original names list, maybe some people that you haven't seen yet, maybe people that you're afraid to go see. You want to have all those people on the list, referrals from your demos, in your virtual appointments, and anything else that you can think of, especially if you're afraid to call them. Like I mentioned earlier, if there's somebody that you're afraid to call, maybe on your chicken list, make sure they're on the list and they're at the top as well. And then ask your manager for any other, type of leads that you can get. I know there's sometimes directories for high schools. Maybe, your college floor, ask your roommates or neighbors if you can go see their parents for a virtual appointment or in person. And really just, get all of these names and numbers into one big, spreadsheet. So if you look at the handout that I actually created, it's a Google Doc, so I can share this with you. Just email your manager and I can always get you the hard copy here. But what you want to do is organize all of these people in a list from 1 to 30, and then everyone else just goes into your future list. And so what you want to do is, for the first, the most important part is really to do an all-day phone jam. So right now, maybe your schedule, maybe it's really full. Maybe you're better than most, reps in this company. But if you're like me, when I was in college, my calendar is usually pretty empty. Maybe made some excuses, maybe just have a ton going on, during school. But what I did is, I usually had, 3 to 5 appointments in my calendar, and then the rest of my appointment slots are just never filled in. So what you want to do is lay out every single appointment that you have available in your calendar over the next month. Okay. And then what you want to do after that, schedule an all-day phone jam. Like, do this tomorrow. Do this, tomorrow or within the next couple days. What you're going to want to do is, with, 200 of the people on your list. So yes, make a list that's at least 200 contacts. With those 200 people, you want to call every single person throughout the entire day. This is just going to fill up your first week of your calendar. Might even fill in the first 2 weeks. So by doing this, you're just setting yourself up for success. So then when you phone, the next day after the phone jam and only make 30 phone calls, you're going to be calling for 2 weeks in advance. You're not going to be calling for, the next day. So the first thing, make sure you have that all day phone jam, 200 plus phone calls in one day. This is just going to fill up that first week and maybe even some of your second week. And then after this massive phone call day, it gets a lot easier. Phoning gets super easy. So for those 30 phone calls a day, this will take you anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. Usually it took me 90 minutes. Did like a half hour a power. So you make 10 phone calls in a half hour. If you get done in 20 minutes, you get 10 minutes off. And then once that half hour is up, you start your next 10 phone calls. And then after that half hour is up, you make your next 10 phone calls. So you just, split up into half hour blocks, 10 phone calls. Once you get them done, you can take the rest of the time off of that half hour, And then the second half hour, you start making 10 phone calls again. So when you're doing this, as long as you make your 30 phone calls, nothing else really matters. So as long as you commit to these phone calls, the rest of the day is easy. So usually what I do is I like to eat the frog. So what does that mean? I don't actually eat an actual frog. It's you get the worst thing of the day done right away in the morning. So what I've found throughout my career, whenever you make phone calls, we now live in a time where it's okay to pick up your phone in the middle of a workday. So it doesn't matter when you call your customers, because even if they're working, most of them are still going to pick up their phone, especially with a lot of people working at home. I actually had a customer that I called, and they happened to be a teacher at a college, and they were in the middle of a lecture when I called, and I still scheduled an appointment. So it doesn't matter when you call, people will pick up the phone, whether they're working, they're super busy, it doesn't matter, people will pick up the phone. So what I do is I eat the frog, get the phone calls done right away in the morning, and then all I have to do is show up to my appointments the rest of the day, or whatever I have scheduled for that day. So really, if maybe mornings don't work out for you, you'd rather make your phone calls in the evening, that's great. Just make sure you stick to that calendar though. But typically I made my phone calls anywhere from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then I'd start my appointments at 11 or noon, and then do like 3 to 4 appointments a day that I was working. The other thing that you want to do is when you're making these phone calls is make sure you're leaving voicemails. So some people hate voicemails, some people love voicemails. I absolutely love them because there are so many times where, you do run into people that are super busy and never have time to answer their phone. Well, if you leave them a voicemail, all they have to do is call you right back and say, what did you need? What kind of appointment were you trying to set up? It's like, okay, cool. And then you just, go through your phone approach and you set up the appointment. This usually gets you a few extra appointments, because otherwise you make your 30 phone calls, don't leave any voicemails. Sometimes people call you back, but if you leave a voicemail, there's a better chance they're going to call you back. And then maybe instead of only setting up 3 or 4 appointments, maybe you set up 6 appointments because 2 of those people call you back and set up an appointment. So make sure you leave a voicemail. So what I do with this list, you have your numbers 1 through 30. These are the top 30 people you're going to call. So all you do, you don't think about it. You just go down the list and call every single person. So as you can see, Sue Smith, I have set. So I have her highlighted in green. And then number 2, I have John Doe. Left message 1 is what that stands for. LM1 is left message 1. So what you do is every single day, so you make 30 phone calls. So Sue Smith, she's set. So what I do is I move her into the, into a separate document, because that appointment is set. I don't have to call Sue anymore. I just have to, show up to her house and sharpen her knives, do an appointment for her, or do a virtual appointment over the laptop. Make sure she shows up in my Zoom. For John, though, I left a message, he didn't call me back. So that's day 1. Now, day 2, John Doe is now my first person, and then everyone else follows suit underneath him. So if I leave a message again, that's LM2, left message 2. So what I do is I call these customers 5 days in a row, and I leave a voicemail every single time. There's so many times where people get to the 4th voicemail and they're just like, oh my gosh, why isn't it calling me so much? And they call me back and say, hey, what do you need? And it's like, okay, cool. I can set up an appointment with you. Boom, done. The only reason it happened is because I called them 4 days in a row and left a voicemail every single time. Hey, John, not sure if you got my message, but just calling because I'm trying to earn a scholarship through college. Just want to see if you could help me out. Your friend so-and-so referred me, Sue Smith. Please call me back, phone number, and then hang up. If you call your customers 4 or 5 days in a row and leave a voicemail just like that, they're going to call you back. So there are some customers that don't call you back, though. There are a small percentage that won't. So once I leave a voicemail 5 times, 5 days in a row, I move them to the left message 5 document. These are customers that you can call when you run out of leads, if that ever happens, which shouldn't happen, but it sometimes does. So really all you have to do is call all 30 of your people, keep everything organized. So if they're set or they're not interested, move them out of your top 30. And then all the people that are below your top 30, you just move into your 30 phone calls each week, or sorry, each day. So every single day, when you get done phoning, you filter out all the sets, all the not interested, all the left message fives, and then you just move more people into your top 30 list. And then there's going to be some people that want you to call back. So just make sure you take good notes and call them back when they say, call them back when you say you will call them back. After you do that, you just keep on making phone calls every single day. So I don't take a day off of making phone calls. I make 30 phone calls every single day, 7 days a week. Even if it's a day that I don't work, I do it before I have plans and make my 30 phone calls, and then the rest is easy. So another thing that's important with phoning is, figure out what your averages are. You'll find that out the more phone calls that you make. And the more phone calls that you make, the less amount of phone calls it will end up being that you have to make in order to set up an appointment, because you're going to get better at phoning. So find out what your averages are, because then you can, structure how you want to hit your CPO goals. And it's a lot easier to think about goals and how much you can sell in a push period or really throughout the entire year. The great thing about this system is you will always have, good phone times, because, you're going to set them up times that you want to, but there's also going to be some times where you don't set up that many appointments. But the great thing is because you do that all day phone jam right off the bat, is you're going to be a week or 2 weeks ahead of schedule. So even if you have a bad phone week where you don't really set up that many appointments, it's not like you're going in the week and being like, oh my gosh, I don't have appointments for the week. It's because you did all your phone calls, weeks before. And so your schedule's already filled up. The great thing too is customers, they respect you a lot more when your schedule's full. Because if your customer says, oh yeah, no problem, I can, meet you tomorrow. And it's like, oh, Mrs. Jones, sorry. So I actually am completely full for the next 2 weeks. But, on December 7th, I can actually squeeze you into my calendar. I do have like a noon or a 2 available. That's all I have left. But if you can make one of those work, I can definitely squeeze you in. It's just like when people are signing up to go to the doctor's like, I only have these couple appointments. It's 6 months out. But if you can make it work, we can squeeze you in. Now, does your doctor, maybe their calendar really is that tight, but I highly doubt it is. But they respect you. They respect that doctor or dentist or really whoever it is, because it's like, oh my gosh, they're so busy. If I don't schedule it now, I'm never going to get in. So, keep your schedule built in advance, and, customers are going to respect your schedule a lot more. Phone calls equals demos, which equals sales and referrals, which equals CPO, which equals a paycheck. So commit to phone calls and you'll sell more than you thought was even possible. Thanks, everybody.